Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, text 15. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam matsamstham adhigacchati. So in this way, Yunjan evam sada, always engaged like this, like what Krishna explained in the last four verses, going to the secluded place, sitting on a nice seat at a medium elevation, and not fully closing the eyes, staring at the tip of the nose, and always thinking of Krishna within. Manah samyamya matchitto yukta asita matvaraha. Clearly said, one has to think about Krishna. And in this way, Krishna now says, Sada evam yunjan. In this way, if the yogi always practices his meditation, Sada Atmanam, within himself, with his body, mind, and soul, yogi niyatamanasah, again, that control of the mind is paramount, is essential. One who is always controlling the mind, yogi niyatamanasah, what he will attain? Shantim he will attain. Shantim means peace. And Nirvana Paramam. Nirvana means cessation of material existence. Balavan means possessor of strength. Acharyavan means possessor of Acharya. Buddhivan means possessor of Buddhi. Like that, Nirvan means possessor of nothing. Or this material existence becomes ceased. Nirvana. So if one focuses this practice on this practice always, he will attain peace, shantim, and nirvana paramam, cessation of material existence. Does it mean he will become zero? Like the Buddhists, they also say the ultimate goal is nirvana. Nirvana word has become famous because of Buddhists. So they literally take it to be the literal meaning, which is becoming zero. You are something now because of the combination of earth, water, air, fire, and sky. And when you die, all these elements, they go back to their origins and you cease to exist. You are no more. You become zero. That is why they are also called Shunyavadi. Shunyavadi. Do we become like that? Does Krishna mean that when he says Nirvana? Shantim, Nirvana means, the people say RIP, RIP, rest in peace, which is actually very incorrect way of saying when one dies, because one does not attain nirvana, one does not attain shanti. They have to transmigrate to another species based on their desire at the time of death. So they have to take birth and again go through these different bodies. So it's not that kind of nirvana. Krishna does not mean you become zero. Shantim nirvana paramam. So what you will become? Where you will go? Mat samstham adhigacchati. Krishna is saying mat samstha. Samstha means institution or a kingdom. So mat samstha means Krishna's kingdom, the spiritual sky. Adhigacchati, one goes. So one does not become void or does not merge into some impersonal Brahman, but goes to the kingdom of God. This is the ultimate goal. So this is the purpose, this is the aim for which the yoga should be aimed for. But ultimately, people who are not bona fide, they teach that yoga is meant for siddhis. You know these Ashtasiddhis, Animadi, Ashtasiddhi, Anima, Laghima. One can become smaller than the smallest. One can become lighter than the lightest. One can attain anything. One can go to any planet. So all these kind of yoga siddhis, people become enamored by it, and they continue to stay in this material world. No, that's not the purpose. The purpose of yoga is to think of Krishna and continue that practice so that at the end, at samstham adhigachyati. So as you can see, the practice of Krishna consciousness that is recommended for this age, by which we can go back to Godhead. And the yoga principle Krishna is saying here also is meant for going back to Godhead. So essentially, both processes lead us to the same result if followed properly. And because we cannot do that yogic practices in this age, so Krishna consciousness is mentioned. Krishna consciousness is prescribed. And all these principles Krishna mentions are satisfied in Krishna consciousness. Like the first line he says, Yunjan evam sadatmanam, always thinking of Krishna within the heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always chant the holy name of Krishna. It's equal to that, equivalent to Injan Nevam Sadatmanam. And Nirvana Paramam. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, the ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence by not entering void. There is no void anywhere within the Lord's creation. Rather, entering into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord. And that abode of the Lord is mentioned elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. In that abode, there is no need of sun or moon or fire or electricity. That means it's not material. And the people, their bodies, everything is spiritual there. There are kalpavruksha trees providing all what we want. There is no friction among people. Everybody has the same desire, which is to serve the Lord. So all these Vaikuntha planets are self-illuminated. There is no need for the sun. That is why they are called Param Dhama, superior abodes. Mat Samstha, Krishna Samstha. One can go to that abode by following these practices. No one can reach the spiritual sky or enter into the eternal abode of the Lord without proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion Vishnu. So, in order to go there, you cannot reach without understanding. You cannot just suddenly think. Of course, thinking of Krishna at the time of death is not an ordinary thing. But one has to understand properly, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. So, when we are working outside, when we are doing household duties, if our mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities, of course, it's a very elevated stage of perfection. But the examples are given in scriptures. The examples are there in the life of acharyas. Like in Bhagavatam, the example of Ambarish Maharaj is given. He is a king, he is an emperor who has so many duties to perform. So it is said, Savai manaha Krishna padara vindayoho. But he first reposed, fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna and performed all his duties. In the Vedas also we learn, Tam eva viditva atimrutyumeti. Tam eva viditva, when you know him, atimrutyum, you can surpass, overcome this path of birth and death only by understanding Krishna. So, real Shanti, Shantim Nirvana Paramam. Real Shanti means when we attain the shelter of Krishna, when we have that Krishna's protection, Krishna's transcendental protection, when we have that conviction, that is real Shanti. Krishna will protect me. Like Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield, the world war was going on. He was shooting arrows, evading arrows, but he was completely in full Shanti, transcendentally, because he was surrendered to Krishna. Mare Krishna rakhe Krishna mare ke. If Krishna decides to protect somebody, nobody can kill. If Krishna decides to kill somebody, nobody can protect. So Prabhupada was once traveling in the flight and he was sitting in the front and the devotees, the disciples were sitting at the back. And suddenly the plane hit a air pocket or something and it's started to drop in elevation rapidly and there was screaming, shouting, howling and everybody was, it's a huge turmoil and people thought it was going to crash and all these cries were louder and it seemed to go on for like maybe half a minute, which is huge. And and then after that somehow it settled down and then some devotees came and checked with Krishna, checked with Prabhupada how he was doing. He seemed very calm. Prabhupada, how are you doing? Prabhupada said, we can die at any time. He seemed very calm and serene. We can die at any time. Krishna can come as death. If Krishna decides to come as death, so we have to be ready to accept, embrace it. But that death does not feel like death if one is surrendered to Krishna. Just like this cat, when it catches its prey, the mouse, see how the mouse is shivering, wiggling, and trying to escape. It's in the jaws of the cat. Any time the death is imminent. Just imagine the plight of that mouse. But the same cat, the mother cat, also carries its own child, the kitten, in its jaws. And how secure that kitten feels. You can make it out. The kitten is completely surrendered to the cat and completely at rest, completely convinced that the mother will give protection. But the same jaws it's carrying. So when we have that confidence of protection of Krishna, that is real Shanti. Krishna will protect. In Bhagavatam, there is a very interesting example given of the Yadus. The Yadu dynasty of Dwaraka. Krishna came in the Yadu dynasty, son of Yayati. Yadu was the son of Yayati. And Yadoho Priyasyanvavaye Malayasyeva Chandanam. Krishna comes to glorify his devotees. So Yadu was one great devotee of the Lord. So Krishna came in his dynasty to glorify him. Malayasyeva Chandanam, just like the Chandana, sandalwood tree, can grow anywhere, but it predominantly grows in that Malaya hills, Malaysia. And it has become famous as Malaya Chandanam, Malayasyeva Chandanam. Even though sandalwood can come anywhere, it has become famous as Malayasyeva Chandanam. So similarly, the Lord can appear anywhere, but he has become known as Yadunandana, Yadoho Priyasyanvavaye, to please, to glorify his devotee. So these Yadus are great devotees of the Lord. So it is said that Yad Bahudanda Bhyudayanu Yadu Pravira hi Akuto Bhayamuhu Adhikramanti Angribir Ahritam Balat Sabham Sudharmam Surasattamochitam. So these great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of the Lord, Lord Sri Krishna, always remained fearless in every respect. So they were confident of the protection of Krishna, and therefore their feet trample over the Sudharma assembly house. You know, the assembly house in Dwaraka is called Sudharma. The special feature of that is one who enters the Sudharma assembly, they won't feel the pangs of material existence. Nobody feels hunger, thirst, and nobody gets old. Nobody gets diseased as long as they remain in that Sudharma assembly. And the Sudharma assembly, so their feet trample over the Sudharma assembly house, which the best demigods deserved, but which was taken away from them. So during Krishna's presence on this planet, these members of the Yadu family forcibly brought the celestial assembly house to earth and placed it at Dwaraka. They thought this best thing has to belong to Krishna. And they were able to use such force because they were certain of the indulgence and protection of the Supreme Lord Krishna. In other words, the Lord is provided with the best things in the universe by his pure devotees. Lord Krishna was provided with all kinds of comforts and facilities available within the universe by the members of the Yadu dynasty. And in return, such servitors of the Lord were protected and fearless. You see these Gopa boys in Vrindavan. They just entered the mouth of Aghasura Python, the great demon. They never saw, they thought it was a cave. But some Gopa boys thought, no, it's not a cave. We have not seen this. It seems like a python. So they were warning. But then they felt, oh, what can a python do when Krishna is here? He can easily kill this python. See the confidence of these friends on Krishna? Krishna can kill. Krishna was just a small boy. They didn't understand Krishna was God. They were just thinking Krishna is our friend, but he can do anything. So just walked in. And Krishna suddenly realized, oh my God, for a moment, of course, Krishna is God, but just because he was so wrapped, immersed in that mood of being in friendship with his friends, suddenly he's, what they are doing? And then, of course, he did enter the mouth of Aghasura and he protected these children and he killed Aghasura and he delivered Aghasura. So that is the, 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 the feeling a devotee has, real Shanti, really protected by Krishna, if one has full faith in Krishna, there cannot be fear. And so Prabhupada writes, a forgetful, conditioned soul is fearful, but a liberated soul is never fearful. Just as, see this example, beautiful example Prabhupada gives. Just as a small child, completely dependent on the mercy of his father, is never fearful of anyone. Fearfulness is a sort of illusion for the living being when he is in slumber and forgetting his eternal relationship with the Lord. So, this is the feeling of invincibility the devotee gets. Not out of impudence, not out of recklessness, but that feeling of complete protection by the Lord. How Srila Prabhupada, he exhibited the same feeling. He went anywhere, everywhere, and he had the confidence given to him by Krishna. Like Prabhupada often says, all these scientists and philosophers, they are coming, and I'm arguing with them, going toe to toe, and I'm presenting arguments they cannot defeat, and challenging them. I don't have any scientific background. I'm not a philosopher. But why I'm able to do that? Because there is Krishna in the background. And the same feeling he instilled in his disciples. Confidently go and preach Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna is there. Just like these Vishnu Dutas, they came, isn't it? To take Ajamila or to give protection to Ajamila when this Ajamila was being dragged and being taken away forcibly by these Yamadutas. And the Vishnu Dutas came to stop them. There it is said how confident and how peaceful and how radiant they were looking. They were completely confident of the protection of Vishnu. They were completely confident that they were serving the order of their master, the infallible supreme master, and nobody can do anything to them and their order will prevail. So if you are protected by Krishna, protected by the pure devotee of Krishna, if you are following the order of Krishna, then that confidence, that feeling of that Shanti, that is different. To glorify how the holy name is so powerful, Krishna himself exhibited his Rajalila pastime, where, these gopis, headed by Mother Yashoda and Rohini, whenever they would see Krishna being attacked, like Putana or Shakatasura, Trunavarta, and they would chant, when you apply tilak, we chant the names of Lord Vishnu. Om Keshavaya Namaha, Narayanaya Namaha, Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, like that. So they would chant these 12 names of Vishnu to give Krishna's body full protection from all evil influences. They washed their hands and feet and sipped water 3 times, as is the custom before chanting the mantra. And they would chant all these mantras to protect all the various parts of his body. So, just to show, the Lord enacted these pastimes just to show how the holy name of the Lord protects, offers transcendental protection. So Prabhupada writes, Mother Yashoda began to chant different names of Vishnu to protect the child Krishna's different bodily parts. Mother Yashoda was firmly convinced of the Vedic injunctions about the importance of cows and the holy name of Vishnu. Therefore, she took all shelter in the cows and the name of Vishnu just to protect her child Krishna. She recited all the holy names of Vishnu so that he might save the child. The calves in Vrindavan, when they went out of sight, you know, allured by new grasses, these calves being calves, they want to taste these new grasses. And they went out of sight. And these boys, when they saw that these calves were not there, and they became afraid for a moment for their safety, they immediately cried out, Krishna, Krishna. So there it is said, Krishna is the killer of fear personified. Everyone is afraid of fear personified, but fear personified is afraid of Krishna. By crying out the word Krishna, the boys at once transcend the fearful situation. So this is the real Shanti. So, of course, even in the spiritual world or even in the service of the Lord, we take so many anxieties for conducting a big festival or a big event or going to meet an important person or delivering something which is crucial. We have to undergo a lot of anxiety, isn't it? So, what about that? Is that considered peaceful? Yes. In the spiritual world also there is anxiety, but that is Krishna anxiety. Krishna anxiety is peaceful anxiety, is a healthy anxiety, spiritual anxiety. Like how Mother Yashoda is always anxious. Oh, what Krishna, is somebody attacking Krishna? Or is Krishna getting into trouble with the gopis by going and stealing? This kind of anxiety she is always in. So Prabhupada encouraged his devotees, his disciples, to always undertake Krishna anxiety so that that will replace our material anxiety. Anxiety is certain. You have to choose whether you want material anxiety or spiritual anxiety. The material anxiety is, oh, where shall I get the money to pay for my mortgage? Where shall I get this attractive woman? Where shall I get this position? How can I maintain this? And the spiritual anxiety is, how can I get Krishna? How can I do this service for Krishna? But the quality is different. So one should not think when one is given a service or given a lot of, there is stress. Oh, let me go, give it all up and peacefully chant. No, Krishna is asking Arjuna to fight in the battle and then think of Krishna. So much anxiety he put Arjuna in. But that is Krishna anxiety. That is still Shanti. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.